You know that moment when your husband hands you divorce papers like he's returning a defective toaster? Yeah, that. Only this toaster was trying to take the house, the life we built, and my patience with it. Kevin stood in the doorway, the picture of calm that only someone who thinks they're untouchable can pull off. He looked like he'd rehearsed this moment in the mirror 1,000 times. I took the envelope with the kind of measured calm that makes emergency room nurses nervous. 48 hours, I repeated, opening it slowly, savoring every second as if I were unwrapping a bomb. Because that's exactly what it was. Divorce papers. Eviction notice. And the cherry on top? A little handwritten note from Kevin about his spiritual journey and how I should find peace while he found Jada. Jada. I already hated her name. It had that glossy, too smooth to be true vibe, like someone who could smile in a hurricane and somehow make it feel personal. And, of course, she was younger, bendy, yoga certified, and armed with every cliché charm in the book. I didn't panic. I couldn't. My blood ran methodical, precise, tuned for moments like this. Kevin thought he was shattering my world. What he didn't know was that I inherited more than a kitchen table from Grandma Pearl. I inherited strategy, timing, and the ability to spot a con from a mile away. And so I sat there staring at the envelope and whispered under my breath, "All right, Kevin, let's see how badly you miscalculated this time. I'm Lauren Caldwell. And yes, I'm the kind of woman who notices the little things, the twitch in a liar's eye, the hesitation before a too-perfect story, the faint scent of desperation behind a polished smile." So when Kevin tried to explain himself, I was ready. "Lauren," he said, voice smooth like caramel but with just enough grit to make it sound sincere, "you have to understand, this isn't about you. I'm on a journey, a spiritual awakening. I need space to grow, to find myself. And Jada, she understands me in ways I never imagined. Your spiritual journey," I am mused, setting down my coffee mug with deliberate precision. I could feel the sarcasm practically dripping off my hands as I folded my arms. "You're about as subtle as a marching band in a library," I said, each word measured. "Let me get this straight. You hand me divorce papers, kick me out of the house, and somehow this is all about self-discovery?" Kevin blinked, probably expecting tears, anger, maybe begging. What he got instead was calm, the kind of calm that hides storms. I could see the worry flicker across his face, the first real crack in his rehearsed performance. And in that moment, I knew two things. Kevin thought he was clever, and he had just underestimated exactly how clever I could be. I'm the granddaughter of a woman who could find dirt on a saint and make them confess to jaywalking. If Grandma Pearl taught me anything, it's that knowledge is power, but knowing when to use it, that's wisdom. And let me tell you, I had an inheritance of both. I'd spent years building a career as a real estate attorney, which meant I knew the value of documentation, timing, and the kind of patience that borders on obsession. Contracts, titles, closing statements, they were more than papers to me. They were tools, weapons even, if you knew how to wield them. Kevin, bless his misguided heart, had no idea he'd married a woman who could read a spreadsheet like some people read novels. Grandma Pearl used to say, "Never rush, Lauren. Watch. Listen. Record. The world spills its secrets if you just pay attention." That mantra had guided me through every tricky deal, every negotiation, every shady buyer or seller trying to slip a fast one past me. And now, it was about to guide me through the mess Kevin had created. I had my laptop, my notes, my habit of cataloging everything, and an almost unhealthy instinct for patterns. Jada's name had come up in passing, but I didn't need to meet her to know she was trouble. My mind was already turning, plotting the steps I would take. The marriage might have been on shaky ground, but my house, my dignity, and my sense of justice, those were non-negotiable. Grandma Pearl always said, timing is everything in both revenge and real estate. And honey, the clock had already started ticking. I started with the little things, Kevin's receipts, bank notifications, and the random mentions of appointments he never explained. My attorney brain automatically scanning for the usual amateur hour mistakes cheating husbands make. But what I found didn't smell like sloppiness. It smelled like a well-rehearsed performance. Jada Rodriguez, or so she called herself, wasn't just a yoga instructor. She was a magician in heels, spinning multiple lives at once. Deposits under different names, rotating dinners and weekends with unsuspecting men, fake online reviews, phony charitable donations, and a calendar that looked like the Pentagon's operation schedule. The documentation I'd gathered, each line of bank transfers and reservation confirmations, read like a how-to manual for modern relationship fraud. I traced her identity to a string of aliases across 3 states, social security numbers that didn't match, rental agreements in someone else's name, even a P.O. box in a nearby suburb she used to receive packages. I found videos of her teaching yoga classes under a completely different persona and screenshots of texts that made it clear she kept every man on a meticulously timed rotation. It was like watching a master chef prepare a 5-course meal of deception, complete with garnish. The artistry made my stomach twist, not with awe exactly, but with that sharp edge of righteous indignation. Kevin had stepped right into the kitchen of a con woman, and I was watching him stir the pot while she seasoned the chaos. I cross-referenced her appointments with Kevin's schedule. Surprise! The nights he claimed to be at networking events were nights he was supposedly in Atlanta, but Jada had dinner reservations for him in another state. Then there were the deposits, small at first, then larger, each perfectly timed to make it look like legitimate transfers for wellness programs or spiritual retreats. I even found a pattern in the way she responded to inquiries. Polite, vague, and always deflecting, like a chess player baiting her opponent into a trap. Every piece of evidence reinforced the same truth. This wasn't a fling. This was a business, and Kevin was the unwitting investment. And me? I had the blueprint to dismantle it. By the time I leaned back in my chair, I wasn't just angry. I was focused. This wasn't about humiliation. It was about strategy. Every alias, every deposit, every misstep was a piece of the puzzle. And I was determined to see the whole picture come together, down to the final, undeniable truth. Grandma Pearl always said, "Patience is a weapon, Lauren. Watch, wait, and strike when they least expect it." And honey, I could feel the moment approaching. I knew I couldn't handle this alone. Kevin was a minor complication compared to Jada's network of carefully orchestrated lies. If I wanted to stop her, I needed allies, smart, capable women who understood exactly what she was up to. That meant reaching out to Monica, Tasha, and Simone. 3 other wives whose husbands had been subtly, but systematically ensnared. I drafted the email with deliberate care, fingers dancing across the keyboard like a pianist performing a particularly vicious concerto. Subject line, "We need to talk. Jada Rodriguez." Inside, I laid out what I'd uncovered. The aliases, the deposits, the rotations. I didn't embellish. I didn't dramatize. I let the facts speak for themselves. The responses came faster than I expected. Monica's tone was sharp, a lawyer's precision meeting personal outrage. I knew something was off. Finally, someone sees it. Tasha's words were calmer, but just as resolute. "We can't let this continue. Let's coordinate." Simone, who had been quietly observing her husband's strange absences, wrote simply, "I'm in. Tell me what to do." We scheduled our first strategy call that evening. I could hear the determination in their voices, the same mix of anger and intellect that drove me. No pity, no hysteria, just clear-eyed focus. "I believe we have something in common," I said, carefully choosing my words, "and I think it's time we had a conversation about Jada Rodriguez and her pattern of deception." By the time the call ended, we had a plan, not a reckless confrontation, but a coordinated, precise sequence of steps that would expose her for the con artist she was. Timing, documentation, and communication would be our weapons. Kevin might have underestimated me, and Jada might have thought she was untouchable, but together, we were about to rewrite the rules. Grandma Pearl's lessons echoed in my mind. Knowledge is power, but coordination turns power into action. And action was exactly what we were about to take. By 8 p.m., we had a group text chain that would make a Pentagon strategy team jealous. Screenshots, bank alerts, reservation confirmations. Everything flowed seamlessly from my phone to theirs. Every move Jada made, every slip Kevin left behind, we tracked like hawks. We weren't rushing. Patience was key. "Someone's running scared," I noted, watching Kevin's phone light up with notifications he tried and failed to hide. Social media profiles were vanishing one by one, accounts deactivated, story scrubbed. The bigger the con, the easier it was to spot the panic when the mask starts slipping. I assigned each of the wives a role. Monica monitored banking transactions. Tasha tracked Jada's online appointments and deliveries. Simone gathered timelines from her husband's schedule. And me? I coordinated, connecting the dots, double-checking inconsistencies, anticipating every possible move Jada could make. Every ping on the phone, every text we sent, felt like the quiet before a storm. We weren't just watching, we were orchestrating the perfect setup. Kevin thought he was still in control, blissfully ignorant that the entire house was under surveillance of the very woman he had underestimated. Grandma Pearl always said, "The world tells its secrets if you just wait and listen." I waited. I listened. And I prepared for the exact moment when all the pieces would fall into place, and Jada would have nowhere to hide. She bounced out of the car carrying what looked like takeout bags, and a smile that could sell ice to penguins. Jada Rodriguez, radiant as ever, completely unaware that her carefully constructed world was about to unravel. I leaned against the kitchen counter, coffee mug in hand, eyes tracking her every move. Showtime, ladies. Hope you're recording this. I'd prepped the house meticulously. Every camera angle accounted for, every document in place, every message queued. The living room looked casual, but behind the scenes, it was a stage set for revelation. Kevin, of course, had no idea. He hovered near the sofa, trying that look of innocent charm that would have worked 3 weeks ago. Too bad charm doesn't cover fraud. Jada stepped inside, her energy bright and controlled, handing Kevin the takeout with a flourish. I smiled sweetly, the kind of smile that hit 1,000 gears turning. "Hi," I said. "So nice of you to join us. Dinner smells amazing." Kevin's brow furrowed slightly. Something in my tone, calm but firm, seemed to register. And then my phone buzzed. Quick glance. Monica, Tasha, Simone. Online, ready, waiting. I texted back a single word. Showtime. She had no idea. Every calculated step she had relied on, every lie she had spun, was about to be exposed. And I was the director, watching the performance I'd patiently orchestrated finally take the stage. Grandma Pearl's voice echoed in my head. "Strike with precision, Lauren. The audience matters." Tonight, everyone would see the truth. Jada, I began, letting the name roll like a warning. Or should I say Jasmine Torres? Kevin blinked, confusion rippling across his face. Jada's smile faltered, just enough to give me the sliver of control I needed. I gestured toward the dining table, where folders, screenshots, and bank statements lay like evidence in a courtroom. Your aliases, your rotations, the deposits, everything. It's all here. Every man you thought you were fooling, every lie you spun, every carefully timed spiritual retreat, it's been documented. And your clients? They're going to know exactly who they've been trusting. Kevin opened his mouth, probably to protest, to explain, but I held up a hand. Not you, Kevin. Sit down. Watch. Learn what happens when you underestimate the woman you tried to discard. The phone buzzed. Monica, Tasha, Simone, each dialing in simultaneously from 3 states. Screenshots appeared in real time, connecting Jada's web of deception to other unsuspecting men. Her breathing quickened. Her confidence, the armor she wore so easily, began to crack. I leaned in, calm and composed, letting every word land like a hammer striking iron. If you're going to destroy someone's life, you might as well do it with theatrical flair. So here's your moment. The video calls, the documents, the irrefutable evidence. They converged perfectly. Jada's carefully rehearsed persona began to unravel in front of all of us. Kevin's face, pale with shock, mirrored my quiet satisfaction. He'd spent 8 years thinking he could outmaneuver me, and now? He was just another spectator in the theater of his own misjudgment. By the time she slumped back, stunned and flustered, I allowed myself the tiniest smile. Grandma Pearl always said, "Truth hits harder when it's undeniable." And honey, it had landed. Jada fled our house faster than a tourist leaving Times Square on New Year's Eve, leaving her perfectly polished composure in the driveway and her lies scattered across the dining table. Kevin stood frozen, staring at the evidence like a man who had just realized he'd bet against a stacked deck and lost. Messages pinged from Monica, Tasha, Simone, updating me on the ripple effects. Banks were freezing accounts, husbands were being confronted, and Jada's network was collapsing faster than she could delete her social media. The divorce papers Kevin had so confidently served me turned out to be as worthless as Jada's promises of spiritual transformation. And just like that, the illusion of control he thought he held evaporated. I leaned back, taking a deep breath, savoring the quiet chaos I had orchestrated. The house was still mine. My dignity was intact. And for the first time in days, I allowed myself a small, victorious smile. 3 months later, I'm sitting in the same kitchen, coffee in hand, sunlight spilling across the counter. The house is mine, the LLC is secure, and the group chat with Monica, Tasha, and Simone buzzes with occasional updates. Not crises, just life. Kevin's world has shrunk to his own miscalculations, and Jada is finally facing the consequences she spent so long evading. Grandma Pearl always said that justice isn't about revenge. It's about restoring balance to the universe. Karma might be patient, but it has perfect credit, and it always comes to collect. And today, sitting here, I can finally say, the balance is mine. Did you enjoy the story? If so, hit like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe. Thanks for watching Revenge with Keisha. See you next time.